Hello, welcome to our new chapter. We're going to start this chapter out with a little review on I wrote algebra, but really it's learning how to multiply, divide, order of operations, all the stuff you learned in Algebra 1, and even before that, we're going to explore today. We'll start with adding fractions. Take a second, pause the video, and see how well you can do this one. Hopefully everybody can do this. The thing we look for here is common denominators. So this common denominator will be 8 times 5, which is 40. And 7/8 we can have right with a denominator of 40 if we multiply the numerator and denominator by 5. Because 8 times 5 is 40, 7 times 5 is 35. So 35/40, this is the same as 7/8. 1/5 we can have a denominator 40 if we multiply it by 8. So I'll have 8/40ths. It's the same as 1/5. So now we add these up and we keep the denominator the same. So it's going to be 43/40. Alright, now when we multiply, we just go straight across. So 7 times 1 is 7. 8 times 5 is 40. So 7/40. Look how easy multiplication is with fractions. And it's a little bit more work when we have an addition sign or a subtraction sign in between them. Some people get these two operations confused. Like they'll be trying to look for a common denominator when you're multiplying, when you really just go straight across. Alright, now do this one on your own. Pause the video. Alright, we have a common denominator of 28. We're multiplying the numerator and denominator by 7. We're multiplying this numerator and denominator by 4. So we have 21 plus 24 is 45/28. Now, I'd be happy with that. You could write this, if we could say this is 1 and, is it 17/28? I think so. Now, you could write it like this, but a lot of times, the further you go up in math, improper fractions are actually preferred. Alright, now in this one, I'm going to pause it for a second. Hopefully you pause it for a second, and start it up when you're done. Alright, now I'm going to show you two different methods. The method that a lot of people do first is they multiply 3 times 6 to get 18, 4 times 7 to get 28. Now this, any fraction that can be reduced should be reduced. So we can divide each of these by 2, so we'd get 9/14. Great. Now if I wanted to do this again, let's see if I can just take this, move it down. There's an easier way. Now 3 doesn't divide by 4 and 6 doesn't divide by 7, but this would be 3 times 6 over 4 times 7. So really, we could just cancel this out and say what's 6 divided by 4? Well, that's 3/2. And if we can make sure that the diagonals and the numbers on top of each other, on top and bottom of each other, if those are reduced, then when you multiply out 9/14, then we don't have to reduce it at the end, and it makes it easier for multiplication, especially when we get into bigger numbers. Alright, now here's where the algebra comes in. If we want to add these two together, pause this and see if you can do this on your own. For people who can't, we have a 12 underneath. We have to multiply this side by 3, so this would be 3x. We have to multiply this side by 4, so this would be 4x. So this would be 7x over 12. Alright, on this one, we go straight across. X times x is x squared. 4 times 3 is 12. So x squared over 12 is the correct answer. Okay, here. No, one thing I wanted you to notice is x times x is x squared. Here when you add x, 3x plus 4x, that doesn't have a squared. You're just 3x plus 4x is 7x. That's a common mistake that people make. Um, Here, try this one on your own and see how far you get. Our common denominator will be 88. Here we're multiplying by 8 on top and bottom, so this would be 24x. Over here we're multiplying by 11, so this would be 22y. So when I add these across, I have 24x plus 22y over 88. Now I can simplify this. Um, Now to simplify a fraction that has an addition sign on it, we have whatever we take out of one, we have to take it out of all the sections. So I'm going to divide by, well, I know 2 would work. This would be 12x plus 11y over 44. So that's what our answer is. 12x plus 11y divided by 44. That's as reduced as we can get. Alright, now there's no numbers in this one. Try this one on your own and see how far you get. Now our denominator is just going to be AB, because we're going to multiply those together. And on this side I multiplied by b, so I have to multiply by b on top, so bx. Over here I'm going to multiply by a on top and bottom, so I have ay. So I have bx plus ay over ab. That's as reduced as we can get, so we're done. Ooh, now we're getting into some trig. So let's see what we can do with this. Well, if we multiply the bottoms, our denominator is going to be sine x cosine x. And cosine x times cosine x is going to be cosine squared x. Now, one thing we have to be careful of is where we write cosine squared. If cosine times cosine is cosine squared, we can't put that squared just on this x. Or if we put it on the x at all, it makes it a completely different problem. That means you're squaring the angle. So this, what we do is we put it after the cosine to show that there's two cosines multiplied by each other. Now over here we're multiplying by sine, so 1 times sine is sine x. So we have cosine squared x plus sine of x all over sine x cosine x. And there's our answer. Alright, now let's try this one. Now what I would do is take out my cosines. That would be 1 over 1. So 1 times 1 is 1. Sine x times 1 is sine x. And this is as far as we need to go here. But I think we all know that 1 over sine is the same thing as cosecant. So we can even reduce that all the way to cosecant. Alright, now it gets a little trickier. We have to think, what do we do first in the order of operations? Do we multiply or do we add? And hopefully everyone's shouting, multiply! Alright, you're right, it's multiply. So we're going to multiply all these fractions together, and it's going to be easier if we reduce before we multiply, because 8 divided by 4 is 2 over 1. 6 divided by 2, that would be 1/3. 3 divided by 3 would be 1 over 1. And now this whole numerator would be 1 times 2 times 1, which is 2. This whole denominator is 1 times 5 times 1, which is 5. So we have 9/4 plus 2/5. Now here we need a common denominator of 20. I'm multiplying that numerator times 5 to get 45. I'm going to multiply this numerator times 4 to get 8. So this will be 53/20. Or you could say 2 and 13/20. Alright, try this one. Pause the video, see how you do. Alright, we need to multiply first, and nothing will divide out here, so this would just be 27/4. Over here, the 8 and the 6 will simplify to 4/3, And that looks like it's about it. So we have 8/15. Now to add these, we have a common denominator of 60. So 4 times 8 is 32. 27 times 15. I don't know that one in my head. Maybe I could think about it more, but it's probably just as efficient to do the calculations. So we have 405/60. So when I add these together, I'll have 437/60. All right. Now try this one. The trouble that people have is they don't put a 1 under the 8. And now when you simplify, this would just be 2/1. So this would be 6/1 plus 1/5. Now if you're just using mixed fractions, you can say this is 6/1/5, and that's pretty easy. Or we could say that this is over 1, multiply, so this is 30/5 plus 1/5, and this is 31/5. Both of these would be acceptable answers. Alright, try this one on your own. Pause the video. Now that's 4/1, so that's going to be 12/x plus, this is like x/1, so that's going to be 2x/3. Now when we look for a common denominator, it's going to be 3x. So this numerator would be 3 times 12, which is 36, x times 2x, which would be 2x squared. So when I add across, I have 36 plus 2x squared all over 3x. All right, let's try this one. 3/4 plus 5. Pause the video, try it on your own. 5 is like 5/1, so 3/4 plus 20/4. So this would be 23/4, which is also 5 3/4. We could have just got right away by just seeing that we're adding those two together. This one, the quick method, we just say that's 4 2/3. But if I want an improper fraction, that would be 12/3 plus 2/3, which is 14/3. Both of these, again, are acceptable answers. Now we're getting to sines and cosines. When I multiply this, so remember we multiply before we add, so sine over sine will cancel out. So this is going to be cosine of x over 1 plus 1 over cosine of x. Now we need a common denominator of cosine, so this would be cosine x. Cosine x, I multiplied this denominator by cosine x to have that work out, so I need to multiply the numerator. Cosine times cosine is cosine squared. So cosine squared x plus 1 over cosine x is going to be our answer. Let's try this one. Let's see how far you can go with this. Alright, sine squared x over cosine x. This is like sine x over 1. So we need a common denominator of cosine again. So we have cosine x plus cosine of x. And we don't have to multiply anything on this. We're just multiplying by 1. So that's just sine squared x. Here we have to multiply by cosine x on the bottom, our numerator and denominator. So this is going to be sine x cosine x. So I have sine squared x plus sine x cosine x all over cosine of x. Alright, hopefully everyone understood that well. And now we're going to move on to fractions divided by fractions. Another way of writing this is 2/7 divided by 9/4, which is the same thing as 2/7 multiplying by the reciprocal of the second one, so 4 over 9. Now there's nothing that we can simplify before we multiply, so this is just going to be 8/63. Alright, try this one on your own. Pause the video. 3/5 divided by 1/10 is 3/5 times 10 over 1, which we can simplify right here to just be 2 over 1. So we would have 6 over 1, which is just 6. Alright, try this one. Hopefully you realize 10 is the same thing as 10 over 1. So we have 3/5 divided by 10, which is 3/5 times 1 over 10, which is 3/50. Alright, now we get into trigonometric ratios. Sine x over cosine x divided by cosine of x over sine x. Now, the division, what we do is we flip the second one, so we multiply by a reciprocal. And by doing that, sine x times sine x is sine squared x. Cosine times cosine is cosine squared x. And that is as simplified as we can get right now. Alright, try this one on your own and see how far you get. We have sine x over cosine x divided by 1 over cosine of x. So I multiply by my reciprocal. And so I have sine x. Now cosine divided by cosine just cancels out, so it's sine x over 1, which is just sine of x. So that's my answer. Alright, try this one on your own. We're dividing fractions, we're multiplying by the reciprocal. So if I multiply by this reciprocal, it's going to be 1 over cosine x. So this would just be sine x over cosine squared x. Oops, went through my answer. Alright, now factoring and simplifying. You really have to understand factoring in order to get this section. So hopefully everybody understands factoring, or else go back to my factoring video or come in and get help on it. What two numbers multiply to -6 and add up to a positive 1? It's going to be x plus 3, x minus 2. What two numbers multiply to 15 but add up to 8? That's going to be x plus 3, x plus 5. Now in this situation, what can we divide out? X plus 3 over x plus 3. That'll cancel out. So this will just be x minus 2 over x plus 5. Now, we have to be a little careful with this, because this only is true if x is not equal to -3. Because if x is equal to -3, that makes this part of the graph undefined. We'll learn a lot more about that second semester when we study rational functions. But right now we can say this pretty much simplifies, except for the case of x equals -3. Alright, let's look at this. What two numbers multiply to -8 and adds up to -7? It's going to be x minus 8, x plus 1. Well, multiplies to -12, x minus 12, x plus 1. So these will cancel out as long as x isn't -1. So it'll be x minus 8 over x minus 12. Alright, let's look at this. So what two numbers, this is looks more difficult, but it's the same thing. What two numbers multiply to 6, add up to 5? That's going to be 3 and 2. Now instead of having an x, we just have a sine of theta. What two numbers multiply to negative 2 and add up to 1? That's going to be sine of theta plus 2, sine of theta minus 1. And what cancels out is my sine of theta plus 2. And I'm left with my sine of theta plus 3 over sine of theta minus 1. And that's all I can reduce it to. Alright, well hopefully this helped you in order to do your homework for tonight. Good luck.